Hey guys, my name is Bryce, and today I'm doing a video on my mekk-knight's deck profile. Now it's been a little bit updated, but before you guys start, I do want to address something. I don't have blue sky in here. I've got purples, and I've got plenty of other really important mekk-knight staples. I'm just not running it because I don't have it. I was able to trade for most of these things, but yeah, blue is just not something that's available at locals, so I'm going to move on now. So, I've got basically, for this deck profile, the main deck that I'm planning to run most of the time, as well as a whole bunch of other sort of optional cards that, you might be able to add into, add your own personal spice to the deck, but, it's stuff I've got available and is fun to use, but not necessary for the way that I'd personally want to play for most of the time. So, we're going to start off by setting that aside. We've got our extra stack over here. Now we're going to start with Effect Failure. Effect Failure basically will just be able to stall out one of your opponent's monster effects, but it's also a tuner, which will come in handy for one of the sort of alternative strategies, especially for when you're going into your second round and risking going into time, basically. So we've got 3 of those, because for the most part, if you're running mekk-knights properly, you can get so many special summons that a normal summon into a synchro for that play is pretty doable, but also you want to just be able to handle a lot of monster effects that might be giving you trouble going second and everything. So you can basically stop your opponent from setting up before they do and it's too late, basically. Next we've got 3 mekk-knight Abrams. The reason for having 3, I've only got one of the crazy super ones, but they've all sadly got just the check this out thing. I kind of almost wish that I could have the Japanese version of this, just because the wording on the flavor text is way cooler. You should look it up. Anyway, so I've run 3 of these because I have 3 rescue rabbits. It is a really excellent normal summon to just go into 2 Abrams, special summon out another mekk-knight underneath. Either an XCs that you want to run, nothing special about that. I just love having also 1 shiny rescue rabbit. Phantom Skyblaster, you could definitely run 3 of. I don't have it as like a main priority in here, but I also wanted to have it in here just to show that it's really strong card to have in this. And also lots of nice things in the extra deck that also complement this. Next to run 2 Honest. Really not necessary for most builds. I like it because it's often kind of forgotten about at my locals, but it's something that's just reliable enough to work in alongside all these other light monsters that I'll be including the extra deck as well. So just by design, it's like a nice surprise. And I also don't run a lot of hand traps aside from Effect Failure, because I'm certainly more of a budget player. So this is a nice sort of unforeseen thing to have going into battle. Next, I have 2 mekk-knight Yellow Star. There's a bit more play in terms of back row to have to deal with, so Yellow Star does make sense in this case. Otherwise, if you're going into something more competitive, I definitely see people run only 1 as an out to something, but I do like the attack stats on it and defense. It's way better than, say, Orange for, huge defense, but the effect is not all that great. Next, 2 Red Moon for the level that I play at. The monster removal is quite nice to have. I've got 1 Gamma Seal. I finally got a Kaiju after a very long wait. I'd say it's certainly worth the investment, and even more so if you're running some of the alternative cards that I've been sort of hinting at for later. Next I run 3 Indigo Eclipse. The Moveman is very important in the way that I want to be playing with, just because there's so many nice features to negation based on what position your mekk-knights are in. And just being able to shift out of the way once it's special summoned is really great for opening up more plays for mekk-knights to happen underneath. Because I don't want to rely on my opponent too much from this variant, but of course if you do, then it's just a bonus basically is the way I see it. And he's pretty strong, 24. Then I run 2 Purple Nightfall. Maybe I could run 3. Really, it's kind of a shame I still can't have Blue Sky. Of course you'll know that the nice feature between the 2 of just Purple Nightfall and Blue Sky is one can always search for the other, and you can just start making way more card advantages through that. So that's kind of my next priority, is getting those 2 together basically. I have 2 of these. Next I have 2 Pot of Desires. Now I do have searching from Rescue Rabbit, so that does not burn me yet. It could burn me, however at the same time, because there's so many multiple copies of other cards, worst case scenario is if I've, say, got like one Avram left, or I've got a Rescue Rabbit in hand, I can use that for discard fodder, or I can also use, you know, Avram being a normal monster for one of the extra deck cards. Namely just being Link Spider. So there you go. Next I've got Raigeki. The fact that there's, you know, targeted removal from Red Moon is fine, but if you need non-targeting, then this is kind of the good go-to one and things like that. I don't want to be setting too many traps with Torrential or anything like that, or even just like risk taking out my own stuff. I really want to keep monsters on the board to make more and more plays, so Raigeki seems like a good fit. Next I've got Mind Control, certainly used quite a lot for mekk-knight decks. Man, this really shiny direct light over here, sorry for the glancing here. Basically, you can set spells before you activate them if it's just a normal spell, so you can line up a column, take control of your opponent's monster, get it out of the way once you've got mekk-knight to attack for, so you've got, you know, kind of one monster to attack with and the other one's just out of the way to go either into Morningstar, or you just hang on to it and you go to return it in kind of a column that you want, so that's useful to have. Next I've got 3 instant fusions, and you're definitely thinking, yeah, no wonder this has got multiple copies if you're running Pot of Desires, but it's also just really good to have if you're, you know, going first from the die roll, and you know, your opponent either knows that you're going to have to start, or if you are going second, man, being able to pick Thousand Eyes Restrict up and make plays from that is really, really useful. I quite love that in this deck. Next I've got 2 World Legacy Key. This is actually just to fetch Purple Night. Here we are. It's just to fetch Purple Nightfall before coming back for the standby phase, so you can just, you know, bring that right back in and make further plays from that. So I find that's quite useful, as well as the fact that you really don't want to have your day ruined by some trap cards. The locals I play at, it's not always going to happen, but certainly, you know, Alter Dice being kind of a hassle still for sure, and I shouldn't even say hassle, being quite strong. This is important to have. Next, 2 Caught by the Grave. Don't like hand traps, even though I'm running some of them too. You know, 2's as much as we can do now, so that's why it's at 2. I've got 3 World Legacies Memory. This is a pure deck, so kind of running through just with the links for a turn is totally fine for being able to do such a strong play of special summoning from the deck, you know, and having access to so many different nice, you know, ways of removal and stuff. So I like running that. And I've got Twin Twisters, just simple 2 back row out for cost of kind of 2 on your side. I finally got World Legacy Secret. Man, last time I posted my deck profile on this, people were very, very upset that I didn't have this. And of course I understand why. Negating opponent's monster effects that activates in the same column as mekk-knight monsters you control. Super strong, really good. Definitely need to get one of these if you get the chance, and hey, considering both of these, or no, one of these is from Mega Pack, the other one's from Extreme Force. Fortunately I was able to trade both of these at the same time, but yeah, definitely happy to have this now. And I've got World Legacy Whispers at 1 here, but should I end up wanting to side against, you know, finding out I'm going against Sky Strikers, hey, I probably want to throw in another 2. So that leads me to kind of going into the extra deck, and then I'll go further into what some of the extra other plays are.
Okay, so some footage got lost, but basically for my extra deck I start with running 2 Spectrum Supremes, just because it's very strong as a body. The attacking with nothing else in the column is strong, and the ability to bounce other cards out of it to you know, use the other mekk-knight related stuff is good. Having Transcode Talker is an unlikely pick, but if I've got Spectrum Supreme in the graveyard, and I've got something like Scapegoat that I activated at the end of my opponent's last turn, then what I can do is I can go right into transcode, and from there I can bring back Spectrum Supreme with it under the same column as the talker. From there I bounce that out, get mekk-knight going, and then I can start working into more plays from there. Another Link monster I use that's a classic is just the simple Link Spider. You can turn Abrams into a extra monster zone column, or you can just use one of your tokens into it in order to get a effect monster or a monster with a different name for nightmares.
So access to Link Spider basically turns any tokens you've got or Abram into another name and into an effect monster instead. So it helps out transcode talker plays, and it also helps out just several other things to work out. Next we've got Thousand Eyes Restrict for the instant fusion target, and we've also got Millennium Eyes Restrict. Now Millennium Eyes, as opposed to running just 2 Thousand Eyes Restrict, is useful primarily because I find if you're scared like me of hand traps trying to go off just to disrupt stuff, you can still use Millennium Eyes for getting into mekk-knight of the Morningstar. Now, by now, probably most of your opponents are smart enough to not play into this and get a hand trap equipped onto this, but they'll certainly be weary of it, so that can try and stave off some obstacles when it comes to dealing with stuff like that. Next I've got number 23, Lancelot, Dark Knight of the Underworld. Quite the name. All it basically means is that if you're able to get out 2 level 8s, you're able to attack with 2000, which, compared to Spectrum Supreme right next to it, doesn't seem like a whole lot, but there are other benefits where you can have it where it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, and destroy it. Also, once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell or trap or another monster's effect is activated, detach an Xyz material from this card and negate the activation. It's not strong attack-wise, but considering you've got the other negation stuff, and you've got some removal, and you can attack directly, it has pretty good utility in a deck that's otherwise lacking most of these other things. So I quite like that. Number 11, Big Eye. Hey, it's just like a gigantic Thousand Eyes Restrict if you've got 2 level 7s out. And it happens occasionally. Certainly if you only run one of yellow and one of red, then don't bother with this. Find plenty of other really good cards to go with this. Maybe not another Xyz monster, but certainly there's plenty of other options for links that you can go into or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty satisfying being able to take control of something. And still, if you do have another mekk-knight out, you can, when you go to target a monster your opponent controls and take control of that monster, you can just link off into it or something like that. It'd be a bit of a waste, but it's still an option. Next I've got Baguska. Now this one I only run if I'm stuck going first. If you got Rescue Rabbit going at the very start and you're having kind of no idea what is going to happen for the next turn, that's where I use Baguska. Just to kind of slow things down, see what I'm dealing with, and then from there, for my next turn, I can still special summon underneath Baguska if I've got a back row with me. So I can, special summon a mekk-knight and then link away Baguska. Now, speaking of going second and stuff, if I don't mind not doing damage, for the turn that's going on, having a board wipe, thanks to Exciton Knight being back, is pretty nice. So I quite like having that. And if I do want to do things the old-fashioned way from battle, I've got the little Utopia package from that as well. Having 5,000 attack is significantly more than what this deck can deliver, even though it's been splashed in with trick stars and things like that for their attack stats. Yeah, I love being able to swing with this thing without risk of interruptions and things like that. So that wraps it up for the extra deck. Okay, so now it's time to refer to what you could basically call as the rest. Starting off, we've got 2 different options for field spells. Either you can have the classic World Legacy Scars to give a bit of attack boost. You can give some nice cycling where you can discard mekk-knights or World Legacy cards to draw a card. Or you've also got Midbreaker Field, where because you've got really strong monsters with not a whole lot of protection from destruction and stuff, you can offer that protection and let them just kind of be the beat sticks that they're, you know, kind of helpfully designed to be. Next I've got the other two World Legacy Whispers. If I just want to you know, target a deck that uses a lot of spells and just negate those. Imagine this is Photon Sanctuary instead of one-time passcode. Same principle though, at least for being placeholders. Generate tokens, get Hip and Shinigin, and then from there what you can do is you can just make a you know, a mekk-knight underneath by having something else in your column. Doesn't matter if you're going first or second, and you've got a benefit of having some light attack boost, as long as there's no Layer of Darkness. So next, if you are going into time, you are working with Psychics, although there's not too many great Psychic specific type spells and traps for support. But if you don't want to do something like pay life points and stuff like that, what you can do is you can just use Mind Over Matter, where the Psychics are easy enough to bring out, and if you're worried about running into time, this is great just as a kind of a note, instead of using one of the solemn cards. We've got Dawn Dragster and Hyper Psychic Blaster. These are because, you know, having Effect Veiler as a tuner is something that's useful. If you're kind of in a pinch, especially where Hyper Psychic Blaster needs to have one non-tuner Psychic monster. Considering you've got so many level 8s plus Effect Veiler, it's not that hard to bring out. And if you are worried about running into time, not only does this do piercing damage to your opponent, but it also gives you some life points for yourself, so I quite like that. Next we've got Scapegoat packaged up with Linkuriboh, Proxy Dragon, and Akashic Magician. Proxy and Linkuriboh primarily just to be, you know, special summoning these out after Scapegoat, so then you can go into Transcode Talker to revive out your Spectrum Supreme had it fallen in battle from the previous turn. So you've got that. Akashic Magician, if you have Grinder Golem, which I don't, it's too hard to search out at only one, even compared to Phantom Sky Blaster, to be honest. But it does have some nice bounce effects where, you know, if you've got your mekk-knight out behind it anyway, special summoning it out afterwards if it's been bounced in the right column, yeah, it's not a huge deal. You can lead to other things. Next we've got Monster Reborn, if you want to extend combos, but you know, it's not crucial. Next I've got kind of a level 8 package coming in after, just kind of for the end here. So we've got 2 Trade-In, 2 Lava Golem, for you know, getting rid of 2 monsters and being able to line up columns, so that's useful. I've got Mythical Beast Master Cerebus, because I can run this in most of the decks that I play. I love it. It's level 8, but also you can activate it, destroy itself to search for Jackal King, activate Jackal King, destroy itself, special summon Cerberus in your extra monster zone, and then from there just add a back row for a column, and then you've got mekk-knights ready to go for Morningstar. Or it's just really strong if you just want that, and you can play spells, and hey, you can even have some spell counterplay. Totally biased from that. And we're going to end it with Vanity's Fiend and Jinzo as options. If you really want to hate against special summoning, even though you're a total culprit yourself, it's actually one of the stronger monsters in the deck that you can have. And hey, you've got free tribute summons after special summoning, so you can use that to your advantage. And I've actually shut down a Crusadia deck a few times with this, so that's kind of hilarious. And then Jinzo, if again, if you're like me and at locals you've got quite a few traps to deal with, it's an old one, but it's a great reliable guy to have on your side. So that wraps it up entirely for my cards that I can use with the mekk-knights. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Also, as a side note, I just started a Patreon account, so if you guys feel like having a shout out for every video that I make, or if you want to do upper tiers where you can do suggestions or have a dedicated video, hop on the link below and check it out.